You feel the distance before you can explain it. Her messages shorten, her warmth cools, her energy shifts just enough to unsettle you. Your mind rushes toward one conclusion that feels logical and devastating at the same time. She is losing interest. She is moving on. You tell yourself that you have been here before and that you recognize the pattern. But what if the pattern you think you recognize is not rejection at all? What if it is fear responding to intensity that feels real? Most men collapse attraction at this exact moment because they interpret withdrawal as a verdict rather than a reaction. Female psychology under emotional threat does not look soft or sentimental. It looks distant. It looks controlled. It looks careful. When a woman begins to feel something deeper than she expected, especially if her history includes betrayal or abandonment, her nervous system does not celebrate connection. It scans for danger. Emotional closeness activates memory. Memory activates protective reflexes. That reflex is not about evaluating your worth. It is about preserving her internal safety. When intimacy starts to matter, risk increases. When risk increases, fear whispers that distance is safer than attachment. The mistake most men make is reacting to that fear with urgency. They attempt to restore warmth by increasing intensity. They seek reassurance. They ask for clarity. They attempt to define the relationship before it has stabilized. From their perspective, this is logical. From hers, it feels like pressure layered on top of vulnerability. Pressure confirms her suspicion that closeness demands performance. Once that belief activates, she retreats further. It is not indifference that drives her silence. It is regulation. She is trying to lower her emotional temperature before it overwhelms her. There is a specific behavior that reveals the difference between fear and disinterest. She remains responsive, but measured. She does not disappear. She does not detach completely. Instead, she calibrates. Her responses contain engagement, but lack expansion. She answers your message, but she does not deepen the topic. She agrees to see you, but she avoids long-term framing. This careful engagement is a form of guarded availability. If she were truly done, she would conserve energy by disengaging. The fact that she regulates rather than removes herself suggests internal conflict rather than external rejection. Conflict means something is at stake. What is at stake is emotional exposure. Women who have experienced relational pain often develop a pattern of approach and retreat. They move toward connection, then step back to evaluate whether it feels safe. This is not manipulation. It is adaptive behavior shaped by memory. The deeper the connection begins to feel, the stronger the reflex. That is why the pullback often happens precisely when chemistry feels undeniable. To you, it appears irrational. To her nervous system, it is protection. The question is how you respond to that protection. If you react with insecurity, you amplify the perceived threat. If you react with steadiness, you reduce it. Emotional steadiness does not mean emotional absence. It means your internal state does not fluctuate dramatically based on her proximity. When she pulls back and you remain consistent, you signal that her fluctuation does not destabilize you. Stability is deeply attractive because it reduces relational risk. Risk is what she is attempting to manage. There are patterns that reveal fear rather than disinterest. She engages easily in light conversation but tightens when topics become vulnerable or future-oriented. That inconsistency indicates discomfort with depth, not absence of interest. She may reference past hurt in fragments, offering context without elaboration. That subtle disclosure is a request for patience without explicit vulnerability. She might test your reaction to minor disappointment, such as changing plans or delaying responses. These micro-tests are not games. They are diagnostic. She is observing whether your reaction becomes controlling, resentful, or anxious. If you remain calm, you demonstrate emotional regulation. Emotional regulation lowers her defense. Lower defense increases trust. Trust allows her to approach again without feeling exposed. Another revealing dynamic is social signaling. If her friends appear informed about you beyond surface details, it suggests that she processes her feelings privately before expressing them openly. Downplaying you verbally while discussing you frequently with trusted allies is a form of emotional self-protection. She minimizes externally while investing internally. That contradiction is rooted in fear of public commitment before private certainty. The critical mistake at this stage is attempting to force clarity. Questions such as, "What are we?" or "Why are you being distant?" may feel reasonable, but when asked prematurely, they create pressure on a nervous system already attempting to stabilize. Pressure accelerates retreat. Patience, by contrast, communicates abundance. Abundance reduces fear because it implies that connection is not fragile or scarce. When you allow space without disappearing, you balance presence and detachment. Presence communicates interest. Detachment communicates self-sufficiency. Together, they create an environment where she can reapproach voluntarily. Voluntary return strengthens attachment far more than pursuit ever could. You must also confront a deeper reality. Not every withdrawal is fear. Some are genuine misalignment. The power lies in responding the same way to both possibilities. If it is fear, your steadiness builds safety. If it is misalignment, your dignity preserves self-respect. Self-respect is magnetic because it signals that your identity is not dependent on external validation. Women sense when a man derives his emotional equilibrium from their responsiveness. That dependence feels heavy. When your equilibrium remains intact regardless of her pacing, she experiences relief. Relief reduces defensive distance. The paradox of attraction is that intensity without stability creates anxiety, while stability without intensity creates stagnation. When she pulls back, intensity rises. Your stability must rise with it. This pairing maintains polarity without triggering alarm. Silence becomes strategic not as manipulation, but as space for her internal processing. Silence that feels calm rather than resentful allows her nervous system to recalibrate. Over time, consistent exposure to a man who does not react dramatically to uncertainty rewrites relational expectations. Her body begins to associate closeness with calm rather than chaos. That association is what transforms guarded availability into open engagement. You cannot convince her that you are safe through explanation. You demonstrate it through repetition of regulated behavior. You do not chase. You do not withdraw in retaliation. You remain present, measured, and focused on your own direction. Direction matters because a man without purpose tends to overfocus on relational shifts. Overfocus amplifies anxiety. Anxiety transmits need. Need intensifies fear. When your life is structured around growth independent of her responses, you reduce the emotional weight placed on the interaction. Reduced weight feels lighter. Lightness invites approach. Ultimately, when she pulls back, the moment is less about her feelings and more about your composure. Composure in ambiguity communicates internal authority. Internal authority is attractive because it suggests that you do not require certainty to remain grounded. Grounded men do not attempt to control outcomes. They allow outcomes to reveal themselves. In that allowance, fear either dissolves or distance becomes clarity. Either result leaves you centered. When you stop interpreting withdrawal as a judgment and start seeing it as information, you reclaim control over your emotional state. That shift changes the dynamic more than any strategic message ever could. You move from reactive to responsive, from anxious to steady, from chasing reassurance to embodying confidence. And in that internal transition, you do not simply increase your chances with her. You elevate how you experience connection itself. Whether she returns or not becomes secondary. What remains primary is your composure, your direction, and your capacity to hold uncertainty without losing yourself. That is the position of quiet strength. That is where attraction can grow without pressure. And that is where you remain, centered and clear, regardless of which way she chooses to move.